Lando Norris has opened up on the championship battle yet again, as the young Brit believes that while Red Bull have lost their momentum, it's far from over when you consider the fact that you have a three-time world champion behind your back. But with McLaren seemingly having the fastest car on the grid wherever F1 goes, regardless of the track's nature, could Norris overturn the 52-point lead with 6 races and 3 sprint events remaining? And if so, would this be the greatest comeback made in the history of the sport? It goes without saying that Lando Norris is one of the most positive surprises in 2024 in terms of making the championship battle more interesting. And even though there were many occasions in which he bottled up the race wins, such as the start in Monza, the strategy in Canada and Silverstone, as well as the incident in Austria, he is still within a catchable 52 points behind Verstappen. Obviously, the advantage that the MCL 38 has is enormous, and whether or not the majority of it could have been written to the mini DRS effect that the car possessed, we can't be sure, and therefore we can't make allegations based on speculation. What is now evident though is that while the effect itself is legal, the FIA doesn't want other teams to replicate it and therefore banned it for the remainder of the season, which should be most visible in Las Vegas, where the long straights should put a lot of loads on the rear wing of the car. Nevertheless, Norris has steadily managed to close the gap to Verstappen, and while this is not in the manner that Norris would have wanted, because there were 2 races in which he was supposed to grab more points from Verstappen's lead, Singapore and Baku, it's still a positive for him that he's able to be more competitive than the 3-time world champion and keep the championship momentum on his side. But when talking about it to a greater extent, Norris still thinks that 52 points is too much to be overcome, and there would have to be some extraordinary events when you're going against a team like Red Bull and Verstappen if you are to win the championship. Not to mention the fact that he would have to outscore Verstappen by more than 8 points per race if he wants to secure the championship. He has done this on one occasion only, Australia, when Verstappen didn't finish the race due to a mechanical failure of his car. When addressing the lead that Verstappen has over him, Norris said, "Only 52. That is a lot of points, especially when Max is finishing second. It doesn't go down too quickly. I feel like I've been performing well in the past couple of months. Different circumstances have not led to me having results like in Singapore, but I feel like I've performed at this level in the past 2, 3 or 4 weekends. I wish I could be closer to the championship. We've taken things on the chin, we move forward. I am happy, but we need to keep working hard because I am sure Red Bull will catch up. I want my races to be nice and easy." But while many were quick to say that Norris shouldn't even be there because of the illegal car revolving around the mini DRS trick, we must remind you that he won races with more than 20 seconds lead to Verstappen on high downforce tracks where the flexibility of the front wing is much more important than the rear wing of the car. Obviously, the entire MCL 38 seems like a wonder of a car that gels together from a mechanical and aerodynamical point of view, and it would be arrogant to not give credit to the entire technical reshuffle that happened in the Woking-based squad that brought them to this championship winning car. Of course, it's now more than evident that they are the team to beat in the Constructors' Championship, as Red Bull would even struggle to keep P2 alive. But in the Drivers' Championship, Norris would need the help of his teammate Piastri in order to keep Verstappen out of the points, as the Dutchman would have to occasionally fight a Ferrari or Mercedes driver if the planned upgrades in Austin don't work out as they're planned to. But Piastri himself wasn't brought to be the second fiddle in the team, and while he did agree that right now his job is to help Norris in the battle for the championship, he stated how important it is that the team needs to secure the Constructors' title as well, and he also sent a fierce warning to Norris that it's not a blank check that he will always give up his race for him. This is also not a way that Norris would want to win the championship, and when talking about it to a greater extent, the Aussie said the team wants to win both championships. If you have the opportunity to do so, you can't let it pass you by. If I am only thinking about myself, I don't like team orders against me. No driver likes that. For your pride, you want to show that you are the fastest driver on the track. Nevertheless, I will help Lando in the final races if I am asked. He has the more realistic chance of winning the title, but that is not a blank check. It has to make sense for me to let him by. Baku showed how we do things at McLaren. If Lando hadn't stopped Perez after the first pit stop, I might not have won, so Lando definitely has a share in my victory. But we also want to win the Constructors' Championship, and sacrificing my race to help Lando won't help us achieve that goal, so we will decide on a case-by-case basis. Right now, McLaren does seem like the team that should have a better pair of drivers in order to win the championship in both categories, especially because Perez cannot find his 2021 form and be the type of driver who defended fiercely against Hamilton and took away valuable points in races like Turkey. All of this goes to show that if McLaren play the remainder of the season smart and utilise Norris over Piastri, because it makes more mathematical sense to do so, we might as well have a new champion, despite the media's narrative that Norris will be the most undeserving world champion in the sport. What we must not forget is that this is the man who was at one point over 80 points behind Verstappen, and no driver has come down from that deficit, regardless of the circumstances in which they and their teams were in. Lando Norris has stated that he cannot wait for the season to continue, and if you were to look at the facts, you would understand why. In the 4 races that went after the summer break, the Brit has had 2 wins and scored the most points over this span, 80. Had it not been for the disastrous qualifying session in Baku, which ended under controversial yellow flags that urged Norris to lift the throttle even though he already went wide at turn 16, the difference between him and Verstappen would have been much closer. But nevertheless, the Brit warns that you should never take it easy when you go against a type of driver like Verstappen and a team like Red Bull. This combination has proven to be deadly in the past couple of years, especially in 2023 when the RB20 won 21 out of the 22 races that we visited, which is why many are surprised that there is a championship fight on our hands right now. Elaborating further on this, Norris said, "We are doing well at the minute. I want to keep going. Screw the break. Let's go straight to Austin. The team is doing an amazing job, but we are up against Red Bull. People keep writing them off quickly and too easily. When you are up against Red Bull, you are up against Max. They have dominated the sport for the past several years. They are tough competition. I feel like people relax too much. When you've got Max and Red Bull behind you pushing, they will do whatever they can." But if you are Verstappen and Red Bull, you would understand what it needs to withstand the pressure of holding onto the championship. And while it was the other way around in 2021, Verstappen was in the lead for the majority of the season, and it got interesting in the last races where Hamilton managed to cut down the lead to literally 0 heading into the last race in Abu Dhabi. For Norris, the goal is really simple: win every race until the end of the season and make sure that your teammate Piastri could steal the second position from Verstappen, and maybe hope that Leclerc, Russell or Hamilton will find just enough pace to be placed in between Norris and Verstappen. With all this in mind, do you think there is enough fuel in the tank in Norris and McLaren in order to win his maiden championship? And if so, do you think it will be well deserved because of the massive turnaround they did in the past couple of years? Let us know what you think down in the comments below, and once you've done that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.